Hello and welcome to Walk, Don't Run, the walking show here at Wisp Sports. I'm Chris Stafford.
And I'm Cindy Lehman.
Cindy, lovely to be on the show with you. We've talked on and off for a while now, and I know that you did this with Sarah Gross, the very first episode, which we launched a few weeks ago, which was incredibly popular, but you probably could see this coming anyway because you've been in the sport how long? Without having a dedicated podcast reaching a global audience. It was time, right? It was time.
Definitely was time. I've been involved in walking and race walking since 2000. So I knew it was coming. I knew the popularity would grow.
Yes, it's one of those things that if you can't run, you can walk.
Well, and sometimes if you can run, it's more fun to walk.
Yes, I hear lots of stories about people would actually, despite they're able to run, they would prefer to walk. So we've got a fascinating guest for this week's episode, which I'm really looking forward to. Erin is someone that you knew about, Erin Taylor Talcott. She's a very talented all-round woman, and we're going to be bringing her in just a moment. But before we do get to our first guest, you do have a great item of news to start us off with, Cindy. A 58-year-old lady breaking a record. Tell us about it.
Well, and this isn't necessarily race walking, but it's just walking, and I thought it was impressive enough that we should talk about it. The woman's name is Yolanda Holder, and she broke a 137-year-old record for the 6-day walk. I didn't even know there was a 6-day walk.
Well, congratulations to her. That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about, what do you know about her?
Well, the previous record set in 1880 was 409 miles in 6 days. And she broke it with 410 miles, and she did it in 144 hours. The event was called Across the Years Endurance Walk, and it actually went from December 28th through January 3rd of this year and was held in Glendale, Arizona. And I just find this one very, very, very impressive that she could walk 410 miles in 6 days.
Do we know then, although obviously that's setting a fantastic record, a very old record that she's broken there, but do we know if she actually participates in race walking per se? Because it sounds as if she should do with that kind of athletic ability.
She doesn't race walk, but she does long distance walks. She's been in the Guinness Book of World Records twice for completing over 100 marathons in a year.
So she looks at that. I mean, it's a different category, obviously, to race walking, but it's a sport in itself, isn't it?
Yes.
And what's her name?
Yolanda Holder.
Yolanda Holder. There's a name to remember. And there'll probably be more records to come from her because it sounds like she's got the bit between her teeth, Cindy. Now, Guinness Book of Records. There you go. There's some goals for you to set too. Is that not inspirational? You know, when you hear of women in their midlife, you know, they're aiming for bigger goals and doing these extraordinary things. It really is inspiring, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it just makes me realize that you're never really too old to try anything.
But that's for sure. Well, our guest, our guest this week, Erin Taylor Talcott, she really does a number of things that she certainly can be proud of. She will certainly have a legacy for, not least of all being a campaigner for women's equality in race walking. And we're going to get her on the show now because this is someone that we wanted to talk to last year because of her involvement in the 50K campaign to get women into competing in that distance at the Olympic Games. But she has a fascinating story to tell, so I'm going to let you introduce her.
Erin Taylor Talcott is a very accomplished race walker, and what she is most known for is what I think she's most known for is the 50K. And what I find most impressive is her pushing to get the 50K to be an event for women. So, Erin, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. I hear that it's pretty cold where you are, though.
Yeah, it's been pretty chilly. Luckily, it warmed up a bit today, so it was nice to get a workout outside without 20 layers on.
I actually had planned to work out yesterday because it had warmed up and took the wrong coat. So I either had a heavy winter coat or short sleeves. Neither one of them worked out.
Oh, no.
To get started, I was very interested to find out that you started race walking when you were only 11. How does someone get started race walking that young?
Well, I had joined our local track club, a youth track club, And the first 2 weeks of practice, the head coach had all the athletes try all the events, one of which was race walking. And he didn't know anything about race walking. So he just said, everybody go out and walk as fast as you can 2 times around the track. So off I went, going just as fast as my little legs could pump. And I'm sure I was doing it completely wrong, but I beat everybody by a lot. So when the first track meet came up, you could do 3 events. And they said, oh, well, do you want to try that walking thing? And I said, sure. I have no idea how I did in that race. I have no memory of it. I just remember afterwards the judges coming up and saying, oh, are you interested in doing this? Let us show you some stuff about it. And they were fantastic with my dad, a little clinic. And I was hooked. My dad became not only my coach, but the race walk coach for the track club. It was Milwaukee Track Club in Milwaukee, Oregon. It just went from there. I loved it. I was hooked and I was off.
That is really exciting. And I think it also demonstrates the importance of having kids try all kinds of interesting things till they find out what they really like.
Absolutely. You never know what someone's going to be good at.
And how hard was it for your dad to learn enough to be your coach?
That's a good question. I should ask him. I never even thought about it because as a kid, it's just, oh, well, your dad's telling you to do something, so you do it. And I really don't know if he was just, a half a step ahead of what we were doing or if he really, really knew quite a bit. I know once he decided to be the coach, he was all in and read everything he could read and talked to people. And he was a great coach. He got our team. We were one of the most winningest race walk teams in the U.S. going through juniors. And, it was great.
So how many years did he coach you?
Well, from when I was 11 through when I was 18, so 7 years.
Oh, that is really impressive. And did you, obviously you race walked through high school. Did you race walk after you left high school? I mean, in college or?
Yeah, I competed my freshman year of college when I went to Central Washington University. Race walking was an event at that school. Then after that, I transferred to Rutgers University, which is an NCAA school, and race walking is not one of the events in NCAA schools. So I took time off then to focus on my music performance degree.
And what is your degree in?
It's in music performance, focusing on oboe and bassoon.
I imagine that there are not a great number of race walkers who also have degrees in music.
I don't think so. I haven't heard of anybody else who does.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. And what are some of the performances you've had in your music career, as long as we're talking about music?
I've gotten to play tons of musicals, which I love. I'm principal bassoon in an orchestra, a regional orchestra down here. I was principal oboe of another one. Probably the accomplishment musically that I'm most proud of was I did get to play solo at Carnegie Hall, and that was a total blast.
Oh, that is amazing. Though I was not a very good musician in high school, I can't appreciate how impressive that is.
Thanks.
Getting back to your race walking career, what is your favorite event or the event that you prefer the most?
I consider myself a 50K specialist. I love longer distances. I do go shorter, of course, because race walkers have to pretty much be jacks of all trades when it comes to racing distances. And I have actually raced farther than 50K as well, but I really do love the 50K distance.
What is it about the 50K that makes it so special?
Well, it probably started off with the challenge of I wasn't really allowed to do it. So that made me want to do it more. I mean, I could race 50K, but in the Olympics, women race 20K, which is 12.4 miles. So that's just short of a half marathon, which is, of course, 13.1. And the men get to race 20K and 50K. And 50K is 31.1 miles. So that is the longest contested foot race in the Olympics. In any Olympic event in track and field, you have an Olympic trials. So I had made it my goal in 2011 that I wanted to hit that qualifying time for the 2012 50K Olympic trials. There wasn't one for women, so I had to hit the men's standard. So that was my big goal and my big push.
Did you make it?
I did. I was under the standard by, what was I under? 3 minutes or something? 2.5 minutes?
Wow.
I can't remember.
Wow. And so what happened with your accomplishment?
So then I went to the race walk committee and I said, okay, I made the standard. I should be allowed to walk. And I was told, no, they won't let you. It's a men's event. Women aren't allowed. And I didn't really like that answer. So I kept pushing and I was still told no. And then luckily, a friend of mine has a connection with a sports reporter from the New York Times. And he called up USA Track and Field and said, hi, I'm from the New York Times and I want to do an article. Tell me why it is that you're not going to allow a woman to compete with the men. People started to realize that there really was no good reason for me not to race if I had made the standard. So USA Track and Field said, absolutely, she can race. And so in 2012, I was the first woman to race in a men's Olympic trials event.
Amazing.
And I broke the national record by, I think, 5 minutes. And I came in 6th.
That is amazing. And how many men did you beat to take 6th?
That year, 13 people qualified.
Okay.
And I was 6th. So 13 people had hit that qualifying standard.
That is very impressive. When I first heard that there was no women's 50K, my first thought was the explanation they gave for not allowing women to run the marathon. I'm sure you heard that they said that a woman's uterus would fall out. And I thought,
yes.
Is there something like that going on? Is that why they won't let women walk the 50K?
I wish I knew. I think some of it stems from, well, this is the way it's been, so this is the way it'll be. And there's a bit of not wanting to change things. But in terms of ability, women are so able to do long ultra distances. In fact, a lot of times, if you look at real endurance events, 100-milers, Badwater, races like that, those are very often won outright by women. And if you look at world records, like say the 100 meters, and don't quote me on exact numbers, please. I should probably look it up so I can sound more intelligent. But it's somewhere around a difference of approximately 10%. The men are approximately 10% faster than the women at sprints. By the time you get up to world records at the ultra events, that percentage shrinks. So the longer you go, women gain back some of that, I guess, disadvantage, you'd say, from the shorter. So it's really interesting that those long endurance events, women really can hold their own.
That's very interesting. So you don't have a reason why there is no 50K in the Olympics. So I'm assuming that you're making an effort to push.
Absolutely. Yeah. Big strides were made last year in 2016 in April. The IAAF came back and they made a change to their rules. And they changed it from calling it the men's 50K to the 50K,
okay,
which made it the first gender-blind competition in track and field. So as of right now, men and women compete on equal ground in the 50K. So they have the same time standards and everything, which is difficult for some things because the men have so much more history doing it. They've got faster times than the women do.
Right.
But now that it's opening up, the hope is they can't add an event to the Olympics until a certain amount of interest is shown from a number of federations. So opening this up, there are women now training for 50K and, going to start racing and showing that we have the support. And I'm really, really hopeful. My fingers, my toes, my hair, my eyes, everything is crossed that it could possibly be added for Tokyo. Could be a long shot, but you know what? It was a long shot that they were going to let me into the Olympic trials. So I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen.
Oh, before we get too much farther in that, can you explain what the IAAF is for people who aren't familiar?
Oh, yeah. The IAAF is kind of the organizing body for worldwide for track and field. So they kind of oversee everything. And then there's federations underneath it. So for us in the United States, it's USA Track and Field. Okay. So it's just kind of an umbrella organization that looks over everything, makes sure everything is legit and, controls certain races and has standards. And
so now the big thing is to get enough women to compete so that you can petition again for it to be an Olympic sport.
Basically, yeah, pretty close.
I want to just jump in here, so I'm curious about this. I've been watching the story, Erin, about the increased interest in this, but in terms of the women that are stepping up and training the 50K now with the possibility, I think, as you say, it would be a dream to get to Tokyo. It may be more realistic to get to the next Olympics with this. But what have you noticed has been the uptake in terms of the women and saying, okay, we do have a chance of getting in the Olympics now, we've got to train for it. Have you seen a surge in women participating and training for it?
Training, definitely. Participation, not yet, only because a lot of women are being really smart and training before they do their first one. And since the announcement came out in April, it was right before the World Team Championships, and women were already, going in the 20K, or the teams had pretty much been selected. Right. Then after that, the focus was the Olympics. So everyone was kind of focused on all that. Now that that's over and then that season kind of ended, I've been hearing about a lot of women who are training to do their first 50K. There's a couple that are doing it in January. And then I know there's a lot that are looking forward to a couple races like in May, around that area, that time frame.
How many 50Ks would there be in this country then, Erin? Opportunities for winter race just in the US?
In a year, we really have one main one, and that's the 28th of January. But then there are other races like our 40K national championships. You can continue on and do 50, and kind of the same thing with the 30. So that we have one specific race that's 50K, but there are other races that you could continue on to do 50 kilometers at.
And what are the major championships then this year that you, as a race walker, you'd be aiming for at any distance?
This year, one of the main races is our Pan Am Cup, which is the middle of May in Lima, Peru. And that has a designated women's 50K team. So this is one of the few times you can actually make a women's 50K team as opposed to just a 50K team. And then after that, later in the year, are the World Champs. Those are in August in London.
Right, that's the IAAF, International Amateur Associations Federations, as you mentioned, the international federation that talks to the IOC, under which all national governing bodies talk to. So it's a system that works, and I think ultimately if the IAAF picks something up, you know that it's on the road to the Olympics as much as any sport possibly can be. Would that be your main career goal then now, to say that you could make it to an Olympic Games and compete for the US in the 50K?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if there is a 50K in the Olympics, I have got to be there. I mean, I just have to. I have to. So that is my goal for the next 4 years. Everything is looking forward. I'm going to make the assumption that it's going to be in Tokyo, so that not if, but when it is, we're going to think positive, I will be ready to make that team.
Cindy, are you going to be there?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, well, I must say that it's a fascinating subject because, again, we cover this throughout with sports here about the equality in sports, and all sports seem to have their own issues, but you've been a real campaigner and a pioneer to gain equality in race walking. I mean, do you feel that you will have a legacy to be proud of by the time you end your career in terms of what you've instigated to further equality in the sport?
I kind of do. I mean, it feels really weird to say, but I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, this wouldn't be possible if you hadn't done it. I actually had one person come up to me in Rome and say, you accomplished by yourself what no federation could do, which was getting women recognized for this. And that just that touched my heart that they would say that. You know, women in the US now get equal prize money in the 50K. And that was because of me petitioning USATF. And I've done things that I am so proud of. And no matter what happens moving forward, that I have accomplishments that no one can ever take away from me. And I am very proud of that. And I'm the most proud that now there are women out there able to train for this event and train for an event that they love and that they're good at, just the same as the men are able to do. And every time I've got somebody internationally that messages me and says, I'm so excited to train for 50K. Thank you so much for opening this up. It just, you know, it wasn't easy fighting for all that. There were a lot of people against it and a lot of negativity. But every time I have somebody messaging me about that, it makes it all worth it all over again.
The modern day suffragette, you know, we have them in so many sports that we have to be thankful for. You are one of those people. And I'm curious then, Erin, before we let you go, as to who's your main competition? Who are the women we should be looking out for that are going to give you a run for your money to get an Olympic slot when it does get on the next Olympic Games?
You know, I actually don't think that way. My main competition is myself. It's how much I can push myself and how hard I can push against me.
You're that person. I
am that person. I am that person because I can't control what my competitors do. They could have a great day and do something that I might never be capable of accomplishing. But what I do and how hard I push and how hard I put myself out there, that's something I can control. So when I show up on race day, you know, it doesn't really matter who's next to me because they can do whatever they can do. And I'm just going to absolutely push myself to the best of my ability to everything I can do and then a little more. And then we'll see how it ends up once everybody's crossed the finish line.
Well, give us some names. Who should we be looking out for who race at the same level, of elite competition for the U.S. track and field in this distance?
Well, the women that are entered this year in the National 50K, Katie Burnett, she has done a 50K before in 2014, and she came in second. And I know she's been training really hard, so I'm really excited to see what she's going to accomplish. I'm pretty sure Susan Randall is racing. She came in third in the 50K in 2014, and she's super tough and super strong. We have a couple people trying 50K for the first time. Katie Smith, she's an athlete I trained. She's been working so hard and her training's been really awesome. She's going to do a great job. I think Sam Cohen is going to race. I'm not positive about that. Robin Stevens, I've heard she's going to race and she's really tough at 20K. So it'll be really interesting to see how she steps up to the longer distance. And I haven't seen the entry list, so I'm not really sure who else is going to be there.
Well, that gives us some names to watch for, doesn't it, Cindy?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And finally, you'll have to tell us where you're performing, because that's a great way to switch off from your competition and performance out there at race walking. A wonderful, I should imagine, way to, to restore you. Having a musical instrument you can go and play. What about the performances?
Yeah, I've got a couple concerts coming up with the Southern Tier Symphony, which is out in Olean, New York, and it's a great group that a lot of us have played together for the past 7 or 8 years, and we're really a cohesive section, which is awesome. So those are the main 2 gigs I have lined up right now. Unfortunately, since I travel so much, it's sometimes hard to get gigs because they tend to be the same time I'm away. So I don't play as much as I'd love to, but I play whenever I can.
And in between all that, you do some motivational speaking and coaching. How do you fit it all in, Erin?
Oh, well, when it's something you love, it's easy to fit in. And I absolutely adore coaching. I am so proud of my athletes. The things they accomplish, just, how hard they work, how much they put themselves out there just makes me the proudest coach in the world. And with the motivational speaking, it's the same thing, getting up in front of people and being able to share stories of hardships I've gone through or things I've overcome and how it can relate to their life and how it can potentially help them be better and get out there and be excited about things. it's just fantastic. I absolutely love it.
And is your husband, Dave, I know he's a race walker, is he also your training partner?
When we can, yeah. I mean, he has, a full-time job. So sometimes it's hard for our workouts to mesh at the same time. I mean, today we were doing a workout on the track at the same time, but we were doing different workouts. So it was more just like waving at each other across the track. But as much as we can, we train together, and it's great having him out there.
It sounds like a team that works. Erin, a fascinating life, and obviously your campaigning for equality in the sport is paying dividends. We will see you at one of these Olympics. If it's not Tokyo, maybe LA. How about that when it comes back to LA, which we hope it will? Putting in a plug there for the LA Olympic Games. Well, Erin, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come on the programme. Lovely to hear from you, and the very best of luck, not just with your racing career, but also with your musical career as well. And we'll watch you with interest, and we'll take you up on those names. Maybe put some money down when you're out there racing again, and hopefully be watching you at the next Olympic Games.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, she certainly is a fascinating woman, Cindy. Is that not inspirational, all the things she's done? And she clearly is dedicated to getting equality in the sport for women and getting to an Olympic Games.
Well, and I learned so much from her. When I was doing research before we did the interview, I had no idea that there was that much inequality in race walking between men and women. I had no idea. It's just something no one talks about.
Yeah, and it certainly made the news last year, of course, leading up to the Olympic Games. And as she mentioned, she did get to race walk with the men at the IAAF World Team Championships in Rome. So good for her. Finished 39th of over 60 starters. So that is inspiration, and good luck to Erin with her campaign and to her music career as well. How fabulous is that? So next time on Walk Don't Run, we've got another equally inspiring guest, haven't we? Tell us about Rachel.
Yes, we do. We're going to be speaking with Rachel Seaman, and she is a Canadian race walker, and she's been on the Canadian race walk team. Her husband is the person I'm more familiar with. He is a U.S. Olympic race walker, and he is also her coach. But Rachel's really, really fascinating because not only is she an Olympic athlete, but she's also a mother, and she's able to balance training at that elite level and having a family, which I find would be pretty overwhelming, but she seems to be doing it great. I think she'll be a very interesting interview.
And we look forward to having her on the next episode of Walk Don't Run, the walking show here at Wisp Sports. So what else are you looking forward to? Are you training now then, Cindy, in this cold, cold winter? Do you go out there every day and get down to it?
I try to walk 3 to 5 days a week. I try to walk outside year-round because it's the only way you can get acclimated, and you never know what the weather's going to be like during a race. But I have a couple events planned this year that are multi-day races, which I've never done before. So I'm planning my training a little more specifically this year. I've never done a back-to-back 10K and half marathon or 5K, 10K half marathon, and I'm doing that later this year. So I'm pretty excited about it, and it will be different from all of the normal races I do, or typical races that I do.
Good for you. Now tell us about the magazine, because you also edit the magazine. Tell us about that before you go.
Well, I really don't edit the magazine anymore. It had to fold, but I was the editor and publisher of Walk magazine. I published it for a number of years. And in the magazine, I covered all different types of walking. Tim Seaman, Rachel's husband, was one of my columnists. And basically, I covered all types of race walking and marathon walking and fitness walking, and it was just a lot of fun. And I do it still a little bit on my blog, but it's not nearly as much fun as what it was when I did a print magazine on a regular basis.
I remember that print, yes, but I also remember that you do have it online, so people can go and read some of the content, as you say, on your website. Give us the URL for that.
It's www.walk-magazine.com.
There you go. You can find out more about Cindy's inside scoop in the sport of race walking here. Well, that wraps it up for this month's episode. As Cindy said, we will be back with a fabulous guest next month as well on the show. Until then, don't forget to check out all the other things we do here at Wisp Sports, where there are conversations from around the world of women's sports. Any sport that women do, we cover it. And importantly, the issues behind women's sports. So we're all about equality here and everything that affects women both on and off the track. And you can find podcasts, videos, articles and blogs all at wispsports.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. Just look for Wisp Sports Radio. And check out, I think the latest Locker Room Talk is talking about equality and sexism in cycling. Do you cycle, Cindy?
Not anymore, but I used to.
So they have issues too, just as we do here in race walking. But you can find out more on our website at wispsports.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Wisp Sports. And how can people follow you, Cindy?
I'm on Facebook at Walk Magazine, and I'm on Twitter at Walk Magazine. And I think that's it right now.
Again, thank you, Cindy, for coming on the program and bringing Erin this month. Great to catch up again. Until the next time, thank you very much for listening. Goodbye for now.